What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, things are going to get a little spicy, a little heated. I got a lot to say. So we've talked a little bit about WB Games' strategy going forward, right? And they've been very open with going, doubling down on live service. Well, there was a quote today in some sort of I don't even know what the actual event was that brought this about. I wish the event didn't happen, but at the same time, it's good to know. It's good to know about the future of where WB Games is going, and you might have seen, kind of the main taglines, the main title. They literally are saying that they're leaving what we know of as, say, AAA single-player games. They outright said it. And they outright say they're moving away from that. It's too volatile, which we'll talk about in a second. And they're moving to our favorite subject. Live service, free to play. Don't know if there's too much of a difference there. Obviously there is, but I don't know if they can tell the difference. And mobile games. They're leaving what we imagine to be single-player games to do live service, free to play, and mobile games. This is the wrong idea. They literally talk about Hogwarts Legacy. They know how well Hogwarts Legacy did. Now, why do I bring up Hogwarts Legacy? You see in the title, I am getting really nervous. Honestly, I am not a fear-mongering YouTuber. You can look back. In fact, I'm too specific with my titles. They're not clickbaity enough. I think I get put to shame by a lot of the internet. I'm not here to make something out of something that's not, right? I genuinely in my soul believe it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have titled it this way or am talking about it, okay? Just want to be very transparent. I'm afraid for Hogwarts Legacy 2. Those job postings that we've talked about in the last couple months that seem to indicate that it's going to be like an MMO or have MMO elements, I am not surprised, or I would not be surprised at all if it's a legitimate live service game. If Hogwarts Legacy 2, and you know how we always said, well, can you make a Hogwarts Legacy 2 single-player game, and then can you also at the same time, you make a Harry Potter MMO? I think a Harry Potter MMO would work. In fact, we know, right, EA back in 2001, 2002, they were doing that. And it was canceled, right? Never ended up happening. But I think that could work. But here's the thing. Why abandon what works so well? Now, you could say, well, Alex, we don't know that for sure. Here's the thing. The writing is right in front of us. They are telling us the game plan. And for us, this is the point that I'm at. Maybe I've just been so defeated by this stuff. The point that I'm at right now is they're telling us this over and over and over. Why should I doubt it? Why should I give them any benefit of the doubt and say, well, maybe they can do both things. Maybe we don't have to be so worried. No, I think it's about time that I, as well as maybe other people, start to just actually take what they say at face value. They're telling you to your face. They're telling me, Alex, to my face, that they're not doing this anymore. Now, they don't say they're doing no, single player, AAA kind of, they didn't say that, but they do say they're moving away from it. Now, moving away quite literally could mean, at the end of the day, having zero. If you have 5 things and you're moving away, you can maybe take 4 of those things, move them over, leave 1. You could also take all of them and leave 0. You really could. We don't know. Now, I want to get to maybe the most frustrating part, and this is opinions aside, right? Because I know not everybody liked Hogwarts Legacy, and I know not everybody hated Suicide Squad, okay? I just kind of want to set the scene. I get that. Watch my thousands of other videos, right, for my opinions on it, but the overall, mentality I have, you can think whatever you want. You can like or dislike any games you want. You respect me, I respect you, okay? That's as simple as it is. Hogwarts Legacy was a massive success. It was one of the biggest successes in gaming in the last 10 years. Baldur's Gate, Hogwarts, you have the yearly COD, but actually Hogwarts beat all of that last year, okay? Doesn't matter, in my opinion, the quality, and doesn't matter how you actually feel about it, okay? The truth is, it's a single-player, role-playing, even though it's actually kind of a weak RPG. If you call it an RPG, it's not the strongest one out there. Whatever. Again, opinions aside, it doesn't actually matter. Single-player game. Single-player game is the highest selling game of last year. Beat Tears of the Kingdom. That's hard to do. Beat Call of Duty. Now Call of Duty is slowly killing itself, kind of, it seems like almost on purpose, but that's also somewhat hard to do, is to beat Call of Duty. Hogwarts Legacy dominates. Again, opinions aside, let's go to Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad bombed, okay? Now, they literally said out loud, this is what actually, I don't understand this at all. For whatever you feel, it doesn't really matter, again, for this element of it. They said that Suicide Squad was a disappointment. I would not be shocked if Suicide Squad lost money. Just throwing it out there, but they said that it was a disappointment. Now, we talked, when that article came out or when they said that, we talked in a video. I know they seemingly were comparing it to Hogwarts Legacy, right? They kind of wanted equal money. I get how, idiotic that is. But just stay with me here, right? Again, I get it, and I get, like, that kind of expectation is just, like, weird and wrong. But they literally thought, this is important. Take a few steps back. You have Hogwarts Legacy being one kind of game. It does what it does. You have Suicide Squad being a different kind of game, which is a very divisive kind of game nowadays, right? And that does what it does. And they admit out loud that Hogwarts Legacy did incredible and Suicide Squad disappointed them. Not often do you hear companies when you hear companies saying games, failed or they disappointed, like they have that stigma, they have that look to them. It is what it is. So how can you say that stuff out loud and get the opposite reaction? How can the message that you take away or the lesson that you take away from that, can you imagine telling anybody what I just said? They admit Hogwarts Legacy was insane. They admit that Hogwarts Legacy, it's admittance as in they know it, right? They know Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game of the year, and they know what type of game it is. They know what Suicide Squad did, which was kind of the opposite, and they know what kind of game that is. So their genius game plan is to double down on the failure one. The one that didn't work. Now, again, this is opinions aside. You can go over the reasons, and that's fine. You could go over why Suicide Squad failed. That's okay. But Suicide Squad, again, for what we're talking about, didn't work. So why would you double down on the kind of game that is? Now, here's what people are going to say. This is what people online are already saying. They need their live service game. Okay, a few things. They need their live service game. All right, they are kind of doing live service already. They already have a few, and they're going to have more, right? Like you have multiverses, right? Coming out or whatever. So you're going to have a couple. And yeah, I'm not saying you don't have to have any live service games. I said this with Sony as well. Here's what I don't like. I don't like taking established things and changing them. Has that ever worked? Have we ever looked at what, Crystal Dynamics did before Marvel's Avengers and say, hey, maybe that studio didn't necessarily need to do something like that? Did we look at Suicide Squad and Rocksteady and say, hey, maybe you should have let them do what they were really good at? This is why I'm terrified for Hogwarts Legacy. Just because it did well, you would think that it's a shoo-in. Hogwarts Legacy 2 is going to be just like 1, but improved in every aspect. That's the hope, right? You want it to be better in every way. But the truth is, they seemingly have taken that lesson and said, okay, Hogwarts Legacy sells. Then they took the idea that live service is the best thing to do. We need to abandon single player, double down on live service, which means we need to change all single player games to live service. That's the plan going forward. How can you possibly come away with that? I don't understand. Again, it's not to say you can't have live service games. You can. But what do I always freaking say? And I've never seen a good argument. And this is not boosting my ego, although it tends to do it. I've never seen a good argument to come against me on the live service thing that I talk about. You look at all of these freaking games, and yes, there are some big successes, and yes, they make a boatload of money, and every company wants a couple of them, right? I get it. I understand it. Look at the top 10. Now look at the top 20. Now look at the top 50. Now look at the top 1,000. They quickly fall off, okay? The games in the top 10, 15, 20, yeah, those are money makers. Are you guaranteed to get that every time? No. Odds are, literally, the factual freaking math is that your game will fail. Look at live service games. Look at the ones that succeed. Look at the ones that last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Look at PUBG. Look at Rocket League. Look at Dead by Daylight. Look at all of these Counter-Strike. Look at all of these games. Is that the norm or is that the outlier? And that is like the most basic question. They're the outliers. I know I'm being aggressive right now to live service. And again, it's not like I don't like them. I don't like what they've done to the industry. But I've given plenty a chance. I actually love Rocket League. I love Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight means a lot to me. It really does. So I'm not violently against it. However, I am violently against if you change something and when you don't have when the strategy doesn't make any sense to me. You can have a live service game. You can do a Hogwarts MMO or a Harry Potter MMO, but please, for the love of God, keep the single player. And you could say, well, Alex, you're making a big deal, and you're getting a little heated, and I am, and we don't know this for sure. That's true. Again, though, we're going back into a circle. It just goes back to what I said in the beginning of the video. Why am I? Because I constantly defend these companies, like all the time, you know what I mean? Because I'm always trying to see both sides, so naturally I tend to kind of give them it and say, well, let's just wait and see. You know, for a situation like this, I really think the writing's on the wall. They've said this multiple. This is not the first time they've said this, but this is kind of the first time that the tagline of, hey, we're moving away from single player, like it's done. That sounds like EA when they said single player games are dead. And do you know what happened there? They made a couple bombs. They almost killed BioWare, legendary developer, at least back in the day, you know, at the height of Mass Effect and Dragon Age. They were one of the greatest developers on the freaking planet. They were almost murdered because of EA's brilliant strategy going. I mean, that's how bad it got. And it got so bad that you had to have all of these failures for them to get it and for them to say, oh, this isn't the right move. And now they have a little bit better of a balance. They're not perfect, but they have a better balance. WB, they don't even have a balance right now anyway, right? Like they have one, I guess they do. They have one game that does really, really well in Hogwarts. Gotham Knights seemingly does pretty solid, and Suicide Squad does bad. They're kind of all over the place. They don't even have structure as it is. So why are we radically changing it? And why are we radically taking from the best products and turning them into what arguably ruined the worst ones? Could Suicide Squad have been better if it wasn't a live service? I will controversially argue yes. That's just my take. I controversially would argue yes. I think the live service is a big reason why it didn't work. Not the word live service, but how you had to structure the game because it's a live service. That's what messed it up. Any problems that you might have, or at least I have, with Suicide Squad, I think I can directly, you know, I talk about, and I'm not one of these people that say, oh, it's just this, or it's just that, or let's make a massive deal over one small thing. I've talked about, like, the mission design. The mission design of Suicide Squad is awful. It's 5 missions over and over, and then the end game over and over and over. That's it. Is that a direct consequence of doing live service? I believe it is. There's no way maybe of me proving it, but I would fight to my last breath in defending that point of view. I think you can trace that weakness, and that's one weakness. I can come up with more. I can trace that to it being a live service game. 100%. The story ending the way that it does and requiring you to face 12 Brainiacs over the next 15 years. Is that a direct consequence of live? It sure as heck is. Is that a problem? It absolutely is. You can keep going, and I probably could make the case for many examples. Again, I'm not here to beat up on Suicide Squad. I don't think it's the worst game of all time. We've talked about it. My main issue is I don't have a lot of confidence that live service is the future. I think you could have argued that maybe 5-6 years ago, and that's kind of what we got recently. I think the bubble's bursting. I think companies kind of know it. Sony seemingly went all for it, and then is now pulling back before they even released more than one. They released Helldivers. After Helldivers, they're seemingly pulling back when they were all for it. They were going to release 10 titles, or 12 titles, whatever it was, in 4 years. That was their original plan. 10 or 12 titles, 4 years. They pulled that back massively, and they've only done one, and that was like 2 years ago. So you're seeing this not work. This isn't working. So why do we keep, and again, like, does that mean give up entirely? No, I never said that. It doesn't mean you have to give up entirely. It doesn't mean you can't, in a way, chase that golden goose, the one game that can make you $1 billion a year. You know what I mean? I get it. I get why Sony wants that. And so, yeah, you take a couple shots. Maybe you even turn a Twisted Metal into a lot. And obviously it was canceled, but you make those kind of moves to try to get it. But WB, like I said, they're already struggling. They already don't really have a system. And then when something works really well in Hogwarts, you'd think that you would double down on that. You'd say, hey, maybe these single-player, light RPG experiences, obviously, like, popular IP, this is what people actually want. Well, they kind of did that, but they said, well, let's take the thing that's kind of dying in real time, that is very risky. Like, and this has always been my point too. They'll always say, well, AAA games, Alex, they're a risk, single-player games. And I mean, we've talked about it, right? Like, games can't keep costing $200, $300 million. They can't because, yeah, that is a risk. If the game bombs, you just shut down that studio. You know what I mean? It's a one-and-done kind of business. But live service also is. Live service can ruin the property. Live service you can promise 2 years of content and then come out with 3 months and be shut down. I mean, I can use Crash Team Rumble, which I actually like that game. That's a good live service game in my opinion. That game lasted 9 months. It didn't even make it a year. No, yeah, Toys for Bob and Activision Blizzard. And but that's the point. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. These companies that want a game to last 5 years, do you know that everything's going to be fine 3 years from now? No. But you know what you do know? You know that Hogwarts Legacy will take 4 to 5 years. You can put it out. It'll sell extremely well. It'll make a ton of money. And you don't have to worry. Say Avalanche shuts down in 2 years. You don't have to worry about a game that's supposed to last 2 more years having to continue because the game is already out. You already made your boatload of money. You know what I mean? Why? Why? And why does it seem like you're going to do it with Hogwarts? Like, they mention Harry Potter. They name drop it. It really feels like we are going to get an MMO / live service experience for... Now, again, this is the only part that I would say, okay, it is a little negotiable. We don't have to necessarily agree. Well, we don't have to agree on any of this, to be honest with you. But the thing that I can see the most wiggle room, truly, is this part. Can we get a legitimate Hogwarts Legacy 2 as well as an MMO? I would take that every day. I will sign whatever petition you want me to sign. The problem, why I don't feel good about this, 2 things. They name drop Harry Potter. They want to literally use it. And 2, we've literally looked at the job postings for Avalanche, and they mentioned that they'd like to have MMO experience from these developers. Why would you hire people for Hogwarts Legacy 2 from the studio that made you 1 asking for MMO experience if you're not making something that resembles an MMO live service type game? Why? And the answer is and again, like, you can dismiss it, but to be honest with you, I'm tired. I'm tired of that. I don't really want to. So unless I hear them come out and start to backtrack on this stuff, I'm going to slightly believe that the next Hogwarts Legacy game is going to be more MMO or live service than it is actual single-player RPG. Not good. Again, does it mean we can't have those kind of games? No, we can. The team at Avalanche, incredibly talented, put together kind of on the fly, right? Like, specifically for this game. You are now asking them to potentially do an incredibly different kind of game. Where have we seen that before? Where have we heard that before? And what tends to happen 9 times out of 10 with these games? Yes, you have your Helldivers the 1 out of 10 times. The other 9, you have games, again, show me that list, the top 10, top 20 games on Steam. Now look at game number 862. That is the other 9 out of 10 times. That's the other times that these games don't work, is you get that part of the charts. That's where your game ends up falling. So I don't really know how you could argue that. Again, I've never really seen a good comeback to that. And it's what I'll say it one more time. I'll try to put it in like all these videos. The reason it doesn't work, as I constantly say, and again, I really don't see arguing this either, you only have so much time. Like, can we all agree? There's only so many hours in the day, correct? Yes. There's only so many gamers in the world. Yes, in fact, statistics, we've maxed out. Gamers have actually maxed out. Hence why I believe gaming, at least maybe in the UK, is no longer the most profitable medium. Did you know that? Gaming was, and I think it still is across the world, but actually I think music maybe overtook it in the UK this past year. Gaming, I do think, has peaked in terms of the amount of people that are actually willing to play video games. So you have limited time and technically limited players. Now, yes, there's hundreds of millions, but you literally have a cap, right? Cap of time, cap of players. When you make a live service game, the entire goal of it is to make people play it every day, every week, every month, every year. Now, the length might change. You might want them to play it for a year and a half or 6 months or 9 months, but you want them to play it every day, every week, every month, every year until your game is done. That's the point. Otherwise, it's not a live service. Otherwise, it's not something that's ongoing because you literally would stop it, right? How can you possibly play all of these games then? If you want there to be 500 live service games, if WB wants every game to be live service, so let's say 4 games a year versus 4 single-player games, you want people to fight over, number 1, your same games. You need to have people fight over it because you want them to play Suicide Squad at the same time they're playing Multiverses, at the same time they're playing this, at the same time they're playing that. That's actually impossible. Then you want them to face off against all the games on Steam. Go look at that list of those millions of people that are playing those top 20 games. Insert the games that they want into that list. And now you have to compete not just amongst yourselves, but now you have to compete with every single live service game in existence. Every one of them wants you to play it nonstop. You know, you don't have to play nonstop. Single-player games. They eventually end. They don't have a time limit. You can go in. You can get out. There's no pressure in literally how it's conceived, how it's, created. you're not supposed to play it forever. So you can play it and then play something else, maybe your live service game, but you can play it and then move on. Live service games, literally by definition, you can't do that. That's not the point of them. So yeah, you can have a couple, maybe even a couple dozen of them. But if you try to do hundreds or thousands of them, the entire system, it doesn't work. That's not what they're for. You know what I mean? And I've never, again, for that specific point, I mean, good luck. Try to argue. I mean, do your best. And I think, honestly, we're all on the same page here. Maybe there's a couple here and there. I don't know. Play the games you like. That's definitely, a thing I like to say. If you like live service, that's fine. Like, I really, you play the games you want. I'll play the games I want. But again, don't change games and studios into something they're not. You know what I mean? This probably won't work or won't end well. If you literally make, say, Hogwarts live service, chances are, by the percentages that you can look back in history, that's why history is important. You can look back, chances are the percentages is that it will fail, is that it will be a colossal failure. The small percentage is that it will work. Which one do you want to bet on? I mean, I don't understand why you would take that lesson away from Hogwarts Legacy's success. These people have no idea what they're doing. Truly. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.